All right, good morning, everyone. Welcome to Orange Coast Unitarian Universalist Church on Zoom. We respectfully recognize that our church property rests in Ahashiman and Tongva land. My name is Catherine Osborne, and I'm your worship associate today. I'm joined by Reverend Sian Wiltshire, our minister, and Beth Syverson, our director of music ministries, who is currently out. But Beth Syverson, our director of music ministries, is off today. However, she is still contributing to our musical experience by recording some of the songs for today's service. In addition, Steve Morihiro and Susan Shaw organized the rest of the music for this morning's service. Thank you to Barbara Schilling for providing the lovely prelude music you just heard. Susan's husband, Brian, has also created a video featuring his improvised music along with his photos. And musicians Phil Chipman, Barbara Morihiro, Liza Shaw, and Amy Tompkins all joined Steve and Susan in preparing other music for our service this morning. Reverend Judy, our Director of Religious Education, already held classes for the children earlier this morning, and she'll offer one for our youth after the service. I would like to invite you to open the chat box, and if you haven't already, say hello this morning. We'll be turning the chat off during the sermon portion of the service as not to distract, but we'll turn it on right afterwards. As Unitarian Universalists, we have many different beliefs, but we are one loving community. We are bound together, not by a common set of rules or beliefs, but rather a covenant. A covenant is simply a promise that whatever our beliefs, we accept one another and encourage each other in spiritual growth. We affirm that all life has inherent value and that all existence is interconnected. We strive for justice and compassion in our deeds and relationships, and we're committed to creating a welcoming community without regard to the traits that sometimes divide people. I would like to extend a special welcome to visitors. If you're seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you will find it here. After the service, we'll be replacing everyone who remained into Zoom breakout rooms for 15 minutes of coffee and conversation after a short presentation, which, if you stick around, good to see it. Everyone is welcome to join in, and it's a great way to get to know the people in the congregation. Our worship begins with the lighting of our chalice, the symbol of Unitarian Universal tradition, and as we light it, we say our unison affirmation. If you have a chalice or a candle at home, we can light them together. Please join me now as we begin. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law, to dwell together in peace, to seek truth and love, and to help one another. This we affirm together. Now, please join us in singing the opening song.
For the earth forever turning, for the skies for every sea, for our lives, for all we cherish, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the mountains, hills, and pastures, in their silent majesty, for the stars, for all the heavens, sing we our joyful song of peace. For the sun, for rain and thunder, for the seasons' harmony, for our lives, for all creation, sing we our joyful praise to thee. For the world we raise our voices, for the home that gives us birth. In our joy we sing, returning home to our blue-green hills of earth.
When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake up in the night at the least sound in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting with their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. So we're going to watch a video as part of our reading this morning. It's a video I found, of course, on the internet. I'm sort of fascinated by this woman who turns out she loves sharks. those sort of monsters of the ocean that most of us fear. I know when I go swimming, when I was in Australia, I remember being very nervous about swimming in the ocean. But I invite you to watch this video and notice the respect and love that she has for these creatures. And as you're watching this video, you might kind of consider what animals or bugs or other aspects of nature that you consider scary, but who play such an important part of our ecosystem. And after the video, directly afterwards, please join Susan Shaw in singing.
I love my sharks, and I start seeing them coming in with these hooks. The hook removal started like anything would start when you love someone. I just wanted to make their lives a little bit better, to relieve their pain. With Foggy Eye, one day she showed up and she had one that was actually inside. I would open her jaw and see the hook. And then at a certain moment, I decided to basically stick my hand in and pull the hook out. But then as soon as she came back, she allowed me to pet her. And from that day on, became a shark that would just show up on the dive. And all of a sudden I will feel a pressure on my hip and I will turn around and she'll be like leaning into me, just stop swimming. This change of personality from before the hook and after the hook was very much a light bulb for me. When I remove the hooks, I feel happy, satisfied, and relieved. And then the other thing I notice is as I start removing hooks from my known sharks, other sharks start showing up with hooks. People ask me, do they communicate? And I'm like, yes. They're very accepting. Sharks in general in the world are very tolerant of our presence, entering their world. I wanted to pet a shark from the first moment I saw one. It took a year and some time before the transition between being a diver and then being a professional and then working with sharks and then finally having a shark in my lap. It's understanding that it's done on the shark's terms, not on mine. Because every time a shark does that, I do realize what a privilege it is. This is a wild animal, and she's given me full trust. It's a complete abandonment, saying, well, in this moment I trust you, you're not going to hurt me. It is something to be absolutely in awe of, no matter how many times it happens. What I developed is an appreciation for their vulnerability. I've dedicated a lifetime, 26 years, and 25 of those have been spent in the water with sharks. We may still be a little bit afraid of sharks, but we need sharks. The sharks are vital for balancing the ecosystems, and this planet survives on the balance of the oceans. They have been affected by our fishing, by our coastal destruction, by our pollution. This is the box of hooks that I've removed through the years. Over 300. I think sharks are absolutely beautiful. I love how they sinuously swim through the water. Like my parents taught me, there are no monsters in the sea, only the one we make up in our heads.
All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low and some sing higher. Some sing out loud on the telephone wire. And some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now.
Listen to the bass, it's the one on the bottom where the bullfrog croaks and the hippopotamus moans and groans with a big to-do, and the old cow just goes moo.
Dogs and the cats, they take up the middle where the honeybee hums. Cricket fiddles, the donkey brays, and the pony neighs, and the old gray badger sighs. creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low and some sing higher. Some sing out loud on the telephone wire. Some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now. Listen to the talk with the little birds singing of the melodies and the high notes ringing and the wood elf cries over everything and the blackbird gets a free. Singing in the nighttime, singing in the day, the little duck quacks and he's on his way. The otter hasn't got much to say and the porcupine talks to himself. All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low and some sing higher. Some sing out loud on the telephone wire. And some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now. It's a simple song, a living song everywhere, by the ox and the fox and the grizzly bear, the grumpy alligator and the hog above, the sly old weasel and the turtle dove. All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low and some sing higher. Some sing out loud on the telephone wire. And some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now. All God's creatures got a place in the choir. Some sing low and some sing higher. Some sing out loud on the telephone wire. And some just clap their hands or paws or anything they got now.
All right. So I want to tell you just a little story that happened to me. I think it was earlier this week or it was late last week. Honestly, can't remember. But I was out walking my dogs down the street. I live over, if you know Costa Mesa, I live near Wilson, sort of Wilson in Fairview. When I kind of look up and I see this coming down the street. A coyote is running down this busy street in the middle of the city. And it's sort of shocking because it seems so out of place to see this kind of wildness. Now, this isn't my picture because at this point, I'm kind of panicking as I've got my two little dogs with me. So this is a picture I got off the internet, but coyotes, as you know, come into the city, right? They've adapted to being here in the city, and we are in its territory as much as it's in our territory. Now, as I'm sort of frantically trying to get my little dogs away, it barely even looked at us, actually. But I sort of thought, about its own right to exist, to be here on this planet. Because coyotes do play a vital part in our ecosystem as a predator. They eat rodents and insects, and they even, help with seed dispersal, and I'll let you figure out how that happens. But, don't get me wrong, I don't want them feeding off of my dogs either. So I also recognize that, but I recognize that they have a right to be here too. We're both animals. We both have our territories, and they happen to basically overlap. Now, I grew up in part in a cabin in the Wallowa Mountains of Eastern Oregon. And I remember taking walks with my father in the evenings and often hearing the wolves and the coyotes howl. And what he taught me on those walks was to respect the earth and its creatures. But I've been thinking about that word respect. What does it mean to respect the earth? How do we show respect? I think those of us who live in the city, sometimes we might forget what that means. And seeing this coyote kind of reminded me of that. So I thought we might look at that a little bit closer today. What does it mean to respect the earth? I ask you, what do you think? What does it mean to respect the earth? Well, the first thing I think, like our coyote, it means to recognize and accede to wildness, right? I remember as a child being told by my father that while an animal like a coyote or a bear, or maybe even a shark to some people, might seem cute and cuddly, but it's not. It is a wild creature, and that we must respect that we are not part of its pack. We're not part of their world, their understanding. They think differently than we do. Right? Now, Wild animals are not like my cute little dogs who have been bred to be companion animals. And even they still have instincts that no amount of breeding can overcome. So for example, my poodle terrier mix, Princess Leia, will go absolutely berserk every time she sees a squirrel or a bird. It's just part of her nature. And wild animals may even learn to trust humans, like the sharks in our video this morning. But notice she doesn't stop wearing her metal wetsuit. She said, "This touching is done on the shark's terms, not mine." On the shark's terms, not mine. She respects their nature, that they are temporarily giving her some trust after seeing and working with her for years. Now, there are, of course, examples of people not respecting wildness, right? People think it's okay to feed animals or to get close to them. Matter of fact, there was a really sad case last year. The Oregon Department of Wildlife had to kill a young bear that had gotten used to being fed by tourists because the tourists had been taking selfies with this animal, and many question why the animal wasn't relocated, but it's a little ironic that the fact that the animal was only deemed dangerous because humans made it so. It became what's known as a nuisance bear, and it can lash out. This is a classic example. This is what one of the park rangers said, this is a classic example of why we implore members of the public not to feed bears. While the individuals who put food out for this bear may have good intentions, bears should never, ever be fed. They're perfectly capable of fending for themselves. As he went on to say, he said, when you see signs that say, "Don't feed the bears," don't feed the bears. It could cost the bear their life. So we respect the wildness. We accede to acknowledge the wildness of the animals we share this planet with. Now, if you ever want to know whether or not you can pet an animal, the National Parks Service actually put out this very basic chart for you if you ever feel like you want to pet an animal. And I think it pretty much speaks for itself, which is basically don't. All right. Now, respecting wildness doesn't just mean wild animals. It goes for weather and for terrain too, right? We've got, fog comes in, rain, tornadoes, forest fires, earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanoes are all different ways that the earth is wild, right? It's not trying to be personal. It's just Earth's nature to do these things, and it needs to. It's part of how the Earth heals itself, replenishes ecosystems with nutrients and moisture. And with that destruction that it often brings about new creation. So in this case, respecting Mother Nature means prepared wherever you go. So for example, bringing water into deserts, compasses for hikes, rain gear, warm gear for cold weather, etc., which seems pretty obvious, right? Like, we're all pretty smart people, we get that. And yet, right, we see things like this. We build cities in deserts. That's Las Vegas, by the way, down there in the lower right. We ignore hurricanes. We take selfies with tornadoes, and we clog beaches during epidemics. We humans can be really arrogant to think that we're invincible against such wildness, that it's not going to harm us. Nature isn't out to get us any more than a bear is, but no sense getting in the way, right? So that's part of respecting nature, respect its wildness. All right. So the next thing I think about when I think about respecting is take time to appreciate and be in awe of this unique planet and the life that is here. Because we tend to respect that which we are in awe of, right? Now, taking time to do this, if you've ever been to the Grand Canyon, I mean, you know what I mean when we talk about awe. But you can also see it in the video and the music that Brian Shaw put together in our musical affirmation today. That all that beauty came from his own backyard. There's beauty and awe to be experienced everywhere. But let me give you a really big, long perspective here, okay? Because do you understand just how incredibly rare we are? Both, and by we, I mean this planet and we human life forms. We are here only due to a chain of what almost seems like implausible coincidences. One might even go so far as to call it a bona fide miracle that we are here. But I'm going to give you some evidence and you can decide for yourself. Here's just a few examples of all the things that we had to go through for us to exist. All right. So the first thing is this. All right. Most stars are made up of helium and hydrogen. This is the sun, our star. Those were the first elements of the universe, helium and hydrogen, right? At the core of our sun, it fused together other elements, also known as metals. Anything that's not helium or hydrogen in astrophysics is considered a metal. Now, when stars explode, those metals get punched out into the galaxy and they form rocky planets. But too much metal and a star can't form. Our star has 2% metal in it, which when it's formed and the planets formed around it was just the right amount. It was part of a birthing of stars that had just enough metals to create planets. Planets like Jupiter, which are mostly all gas, are much more common as planets. Having a rocky planet with just the right amount of metals is actually very rare. Here's the other thing that makes us very rare. Okay, our planet exists in the galaxy in what is known as the habitable zone. Okay, that's that blue streak in there that you might see. It's much denser. Our galaxy is much denser toward the middle with a lot older stars that explode. And of course, there's a black hole in the middle of it. If we were any closer, we would be hit with too much radiation from those exploding stars and all life would be killed, right? So we're kind of in the zone. If we're out too far, life is not close enough to get some of the rays that we need to actually create life, oddly enough. All right, and then within the galaxy, right? So you see all those billions of stars that are in there. A solar system, so one star system, has to be kind of in what's known as also the Goldilocks zone, right? The planet has to be close to the star, but not too close, that's too hot, and not too far out, that's too cold. The Goldilocks zone is where our planet is, right? So astronomers have been looking at stars that are close to us here in this galaxy, and there are millions of planets within the habitable zone. But we've only found about 50 Earth-like planets in that zone so far, which means that they're rocky planets and about the same size, and maybe within that sort of Goldilocks zone that's there. And so far, as we can tell, there's no life so far. So why? Why would these, if they're in the right zone, they're rocky, they're in the right zone, why couldn't they? Then why aren't they showing life? Well, because actually the way our Earth was formed was actually really pretty incredible. So we have tectonic plates. It's a flexible crust through which volcanoes bring up nutrients into the surface, and of course the ores that help create our advanced civilization. Having a flexible core crust where tectonic plates can move is actually rare on planets. We're very lucky that we have this so that it can move those nutrients around. In addition, because our core has we have what's called a strong magnetic core, around which we rotate, produces this strong magnetic field, and it shields us from harmful cosmic radiation, even from our own sun. So it sort of acts like a, I don't know, force field in a sense for us. And again, you have to have the right number of metals at the core in order to create this. Not a typical occurrence in planets. And how did we get this flexible crust and magnetic core? Well, we have another unique thing, a moon. Now, our moon, not all planets have a moon, many do, but not all do. So, but what actually happened was that what astronomers have figured out is that a long time ago, before there was life on this planet, another planet or huge, huge asteroid collided with the Earth. And as they came together, fusing different materials, the lighter material went off and made the moon. The heavier materials made the core of the Earth, created the tectonic plates that made it so flexible, and put the moon up there, all right? And so that the moon actually acts as a stabilizer for our planet. A lot of planets, they actually have these sort of wonky rotations. Ours doesn't. And it's in part because of the gravitation of the moon that stabilizes us. Okay, so against the odds, we have the perfect formation for a planet to sustain life. Really rare. And so you would think, okay, life, let's get going. But it didn't, not right away. So our planet was formed about 4.5 billion years ago, but it took life actually to show up almost 3 billion years just to make a single-celled organism. The fact that it did finally do this is kind of miraculous. They think that maybe it tried a couple of times, but it just never took. So it took another billion years for something really amazing to happen. Somewhere around 500 million years ago, what was called the Cambrian Explosion. And suddenly life just was like booming, and all these different life forms. And this is the beginning, truly, in many ways, the beginning of life on our planet. But it took 4 billion years for that to happen. We don't even know why actually it happened. So we humans, now we appeared about 200,000 years ago, okay, as Homo sapiens, all right? We were evolution obviously working its way up into there. So, and we almost twice became extinct. According to the scientists, we actually shrunk down to only about 1,000 Homo sapiens, human beings. It happened about 170,000 years ago, and another one at about 60,000 years ago. We shrunk way down. We could have gone completely extinct, and we didn't. Somehow we survived that. So to me, it's kind of a miracle that in the space of 1.5 billion years, we went from single-celled organisms to being able to explain the universe as complex beings. So when I talk about awe and respect, what I mean is it's a bloody miracle that we're here. Like, it's amazing. Everything had to be so perfect, all the things that could have gone wrong along the way, and yet we're here. It's so unlikely. In fact, we're so lucky that we're part of life on this planet, this rare and beautiful planet, that we have consciousness and awareness, this unique Earth. It's incredibly unique. And yet, we fight over our little corners of the world. So I just want to invite you this morning to stop and think about how incredibly precious we are, how incredibly precious this planet is. There's no place we can go. This is it. There's not a planet we can go to if something happens to this one. If we can all get that, then we might stop killing one another and our planet. So you would think that after 200,000 years on this planet, we humans would, get what a miracle this place is, but we don't grok it, which leads me to the third thing that we can do to respect the Earth. I think is we need to grok our interdependence. I love the word grok. All right, so for those of you who don't know that term, it's to know something so deeply it's in your bones. It's to really get it. We need to grok this. Now we Unitarian Universalists, we have our seventh principle says to respect the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part. We are called to respect the interdependent web of existence of which we are a part. But do we really grok our interdependence? Do we really get just how interdependent we are? We're part of the ecosystems that we inhabit, for better or for worse. And we recognize our right to exist, flourish, and be human, but we also need to recognize and respect the power that we have as animals, in a sense, at the top of that food chain. So here's another way of looking at it. Take this diagram. This is how we humans are actually taught and see the world. I just talked about it. We're at the top of the food chain, right? We're apex predators, the top dog, right? And we sort of categorize people almost by beings or things by their complexity or intelligence. This would be the ego-logical way of seeing the world. What we do need is to learn to see it differently, to see ourselves as part of the system. This is the ecological way of seeing the world, where we're all part of this. No single being or thing is better than another. We're part of this vast system. And each animal, plant, and rock has a part to play in the system. If we can grok this, if we can really get it, we can save this planet. So I just want to talk about interdependence a little bit, because I am guilty of not always doing this, of appreciating. For example, let's take spiders, or not. I don't like spiders. I don't like spiders in my house, in my patio, my car, and definitely not on my body. Ooh. I have to say, I have killed 2 black widows since I got here. Ooh. I warn, whenever I move into a new apartment, a new house, I make an announcement. Seriously, I say this out loud. I say, all right, spiders, if I see you, you're history. Okay, that's not very nice. Spiders play such a vital role in our ecosystems, even here in the city. They control other pests or bugs and flies and bees. They're also a great food source for other birds. And I didn't realize that often their venom is used to fight other diseases, and their silk, some of the strongest natural materials available, have actually inspired mechanical engineers. There are so many ways that we're interdependent, right? And one of those is, the most simplest of these, right, is like the circle of life, right? Plants eat up nutrients and rays from the ground and the sun, and organisms like you and me and other omnivores and vegetarians eat the plants. Some eat us, other animals eat other animals. When we animals die, our body decomposes. Thanks to earthworms and mushrooms, we decompose and we bring nutrients back to the plants. And this is the great circle of life. The problem is we see ourselves outside of this. It was interesting in the film festival yesterday, they were talking about plastics and all the plastics that are being put in our oceans that are being eaten up by birds and fish, and how these microplastics are making its way into our bodies too as we eat them. We are interconnected for good or for bad. And what we do in our oceans and in the world affects all that around us. We are connected to one another, just as we are made up of the same things as stars. So are the slugs and the spiders and the ferns, and everything that was here, that's here on this planet, was with us when the stars were born in the Big Bang. Sometimes we don't think that. We think it's just us, but everything around you was there at that moment. Historically speaking, indigenous cultures have long understood this connection, this interdependence. I just want to tell you a really beautiful story from the Cree Nation. The Cree Nation is in central and eastern Canadian peoples. So once upon a time, in a dark and cold winter night, there was a little girl who was very sick. She had these strange sounds that seemed to come from her chest. So a healer was called, and the healer laid her ear down to the girl's chest and listened. She said, "I hear the sound of a fox running over the snow. The fox's feet are breaking through the top layer of the crust on the snow. That's the sound you hear. This poor fox is exhausted and hungry. This is what's wrong with your child." Well, the little girl's father was a great hunter, and he said, "I'm going to go find this fox and I'll bring it back, and maybe it will heal my daughter." So for 2 days, he hunted this fox, who ran on top of the hard-packed snow, crunch, 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 crunch. And finally, exhausted and too hungry to move any further, the hunter caught the fox and brought it back to his daughter, who was still sick. The healer told him, put the fox next to the girl and feed the fox some meats. The hunter did so. Then he gave him some water. And as the fox regained his strength, the little girl also got better. And soon both were well, and the fox was able to leave. This is a myth, obviously a story, but it's a story of interdependence, that we're all connected to this earth in ways we may not even understand. Our bodies come from this earth. Our souls are tied to this earth. We as a human species have lost, I think, much of our connection to the earth. We hear it crying out deep in our chest, but we don't know what to do about it. What we need to do about it is to honor our earth, to respect it, to treat it well. And I think then we will all get better. You know, global warming is affecting everything. Wildfires out of control, horrible hurricanes, cities even disappearing underwater as the polar ice melts. Animals are struggling to adjust to harsher environments. And all of this is the earth telling us that it's not well. And then on top of that, we humans, we're more lonely, more isolated, more full of hate than ever. We're disconnected from ourselves and the earth. And do we not see that there's a connection here? So how do we heal? I think it will be when we recognize, when we grok, that we are a part of this earth and the earth is a part of us. We can do this in the final way that we can respect the earth, right? Is we can take care of and heal the earth. Because while we are a part of this earth, we are sometimes its most powerful forces of nature. And despite all of its wildness, we have flourished. We have incredibly powerful, we are incredibly powerful, brainy animals. But man, we can be so stupid. We must use our power wisely, or we are going to face an extinction. It's up to us, and we can do it. We humans are capable of understanding the universe. We can, of course, save our planet. If you were in our environmental film festival last night, Greta Thunberg told us last night that the answer is simple. It's deceptively simple. It's to protect, restore, and fund. To protect our earth, to restore it back to balance, and of course, to fund all of this. I invite you to think about that when you're voting this month and who you think will help our earth. Which of our leaders do you think can best do that? And how can each of us make choices, better choices, about how to protect, restore, and fund our earth? Because, you know, I don't know about you, but there have been times in my life when I've gone through just horrible turmoil, or maybe I need to make some big life decision. And it's always been in nature that I've found healing, I found solace, and I found answers. Nature gives so much to us. And isn't it time that we give back, that we honor and respect our earth? Let us be keepers of the earth. Let us sing.
We are blessed by every river. Every river makes us whole. as keepers of the earth. We are blessed by every mountain. Every mountain makes us whole with its riches and its beauty. Every mountain feeds our soul, and we are called as keepers of the earth. We are called to speak its sacred worth for our children and our children's children. We are called as keepers of the earth. We are blessed by every ocean. Every ocean makes us whole with its riches and its beauty. Every ocean feeds our soul, and we are called as keepers of the earth. We are called to speak its sacred worth for our children and our children's children. We are called as keepers of the earth.
All right. Just as we are interdependent on our world, we are also very much interdependent on each other. So that's our offering today. Unitarian Universalist congregations are fully self-supporting, meaning that members and friends raise all funds for the operating budget, ministries, and programs of the church. We're ever grateful for your gifts of time, treasure, and talent. OCUC amplifies that spirit of generosity by sharing one half the plate we receive with an organization that shares our values. This month, we are supporting Laura's House to provide shelter and supportive services to more than 5,000 abused men, women, and children, as well as providing counseling, which is really important during these times. I highly suggest you guys check this out. We want to support as much as we can. All right. There are now 3 ways in which you can give online. The first is through our website, www.ocuc.org. The second is through an app called Give. You can download it on the App Store for your smartphone. Once you set it up, you can use it any of your online giving. There's a phone number, which is 714-942-1131. And you just got to text that number and you message type them out. As always, thank you for your generosity as the offering is given and received.
When despair for the world
Please join in singing We Gather Together, a song that puts our intentions into words and expresses our gratitude for the many gifts we share.
We gather as one, for peace, love, and justice for everyone. We care from our hearts to show that we care. We can change lives with what we share.
All right, now is that time when we honor the important events in our lives. And you are invited, one and all, whether you're a member, a friend, or visitor, to participate in this weekly ritual of joys and sorrows. So how this works is maybe you came here today holding something close to your heart, moments from the last days, weeks, or hours that might have struck you at your core. If you'd like to honor such a profound joy or sorrow, you are invited to do so. You can do this by lighting a candle at home. It's a wonderful way to honor what you hold in your heart. And if you'd like to share your joy or sorrow with the congregation, I'm going to invite you to write it in the chat. So let's take a few moments in contemplation, and then I'll begin reading joys and sorrows out loud for those of you who would like to share. And please forgive me if I miss a joy or a sorrow. Sometimes the chat moves very quickly, and you can help me not to miss any by waiting to type comments to an express joy or sorrow until we are finished. So I did receive a few sent joys and sorrows this week ahead of time. So as you're typing in there, I'll go ahead and read those off. So Jan Roven said that it is with great joy that she and her husband celebrated her husband Joe's 85th birthday last week. And she had asked him what he wanted for his birthday, and he said nothing but chocolate candy. So she said, okay, so I gave him about 20 of my Dove chocolate pieces. Well, he has type 2 diabetes, and he is on a strict diet, and he takes his blood first thing in the morning and last thing before bed at night. And is with a bundle of sorrow that I tell you that his blood sugar reading was so high that night and the next morning that he almost cried. He thanked me, said it was delicious, and said he wouldn't do that again until maybe next year. Jan says that she's glad he's alive, and so are we. And Ralph Haller wants to send out a big happy birthday as this Tuesday is Jamie Pendarvis's birthday, and she does so much for this community. So if you get a chance, please send your love out to Jamie this week and wish her a happy birthday. And Elise James had a joy to share. She's now moved into their new home last weekend. And she said handing over the keys to the condo brought closure. She said, but we're excited for this new chapter in our lives. And as she said, we now have to be responsible homeowners and do things like clean the grain gutter. Yes, you do. The fun of home ownership. All right. And from our chat, I know that Marilyn Gist says that it's a joy to be able to celebrate her grandson Darren's 17th birthday today. Wow, 17. She said that they will be having a small family gathering outside today in his honor. That's wonderful. And Ginny Chan is lighting a candle of worry and hope as Ginny's son and his fiance are driving across the country to move to Maryland. Yeah, I hope that goes smoothly. It can be a beautiful drive, but I hope it goes smoothly. And Kate Kosman has lit a candle in memory of her daughter, Ellen, who was a marine biologist and learning and teaching about the diversity of life in the sea, and was laid to rest in the ocean off Dana Point this past Wednesday. Oh, Kate, we're glad you're here, and I'm so sorry. And the one of hope and support for her husband, Carlos, whose life has been dedicated to two things: the daughter, Ellen, and teaching about diversity of life on this planet and the importance of conserving it. Oh, that's wonderful. It's a wonderful legacy to leave behind. Our heart goes out to you and your whole family, Kate. And Jolynn and her family are celebrating Chance, who's an amazing scholar, is struggling with 7th grade virtual classes. Oh dear, he's got 4 Fs this quarter. The process is inconsistent and frustrating. Oh, I'm sorry for Chance, and we know how smart he is. It's tough. And Anne Ryan says her great niece finished her gold award in Girl Scouts last week and is getting a mural honoring tolerance painted on a building. This was time for coming out week. Nice. Well done. And Sarah Jones, our administrator, she says she celebrated her son's Anthony's 29th birthday with a wonderful dinner with him and our grandchildren. Congratulations, Sarah. And Meg Wilson has a candle of joy. Big thank you to Karen Keddy and the Film Festival Committee for the successful Environmental Film Festival that we hosted last night. Yes, big thanks to Karen, who has jumped into it with both feet, bless her heart. So, and of course, Deborah also said, Deborah Quam, our president, says she's joyful and grateful for the work that Karen Kennedy and everybody did who brought us the fabulous film festival. And Sarah Jones has another joy. It's a fiscal postal miracle. She says our tax returns have been located. If you weren't aware, they'd been lost. So she should have been happy about having that back. And Valerie has a joy to share. She had 2 wonderful conversations with her brother this weekend. We've had a very complicated relationship, so this was lovely. Oh, that is lovely. Good for you. And Kathleen McFarland, she is posting this 1-month post on her knee replacement surgery. She says, I'm happy to report that she's able to walk around, can't bend the knee fully, but continue working on that. And Deborah has also said she's grateful for our democracy and our right to vote, which I did earlier this week. Me too, woo! All right, who voted? Raise your hand. Please, everyone, please vote. Please go out and vote. All right. And Tatiana says she has a sorrow for the continuation of hunting for sport. I hope one day all will understand how abominable it is for the beautiful planet Earth that this is. As she says, vote like your kids live here. Amen, Tatiana. Thank you all. All right. Well, I'm going to light one more candle. If you have lit one as well. And this candle is for all those joys and sorrows, both spoken and silent, that remain in our hearts. So let us hold and love all the joys and celebrations, all the hurts and sadness, both spoken and silent, that our joys remind us to be thankful, our concerns remind us to hope, and our sorrows remind us to connect with one another. Because all these moments, every single one of them, remind us that we're not alone. Each one of us has these. Please join me in a spirit of prayer. It's a poem by E.E. Cummings. It's one of my favorites. I thank you, God, for most this amazing day, for the leaping greenly spirit of trees and a blue true dream of sky, and for everything which is natural, which is infinite, which is yes. I who have died am alive again today, and this is the sun's birthday. This is the birthday of life and of love and wings and of the gay, great happening, illimitably earth. How should tasting, touching, hearing, seeing, breathing, any lifted from the no of all nothing, human merely being, doubt, unimaginable you? Now the ears of my ears are awake. Now the eyes of my eyes are opened. Amen.
Let us join together as we extinguish the flame of our chalice and say together, we extinguish our chalice, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. We are a congregation made of people who all believe differently. And yet when we gather together, virtually or otherwise, make up one loving community. We need not think alike to love alike. If you are a guest, a visitor, or someone who hasn't yet been known to us, I invite you to become a part of this beloved community, if even just for today. We encourage you to write in the chat your name and where you're from. And if you'd like to know more about our church, please see our church website for ways you can get involved and sign up for a weekly email called The Blast at blast@ocuc.org. If you'd like to know more about membership, please contact us at membership@ocuc.org. Our community is enriched by its visitors, guests, and friends, and we hope that they find a spiritual home here. If anyone has a question about Unitarian Universalism or how to get involved, please contact Reverend Sean at minister@ocuc.org. He can assist you in connecting to the congregation. We want everyone to feel a part of this beloved community, so please reach out and we'll help you get connected. After the benediction, we'll have a short period where everyone can wave and say hello. And like I said earlier, today we'll have a short presentation after saying hello, and then those who remain will be put into the Zoom breakout rooms for 15 minutes. We invite you to check in and get to know the people in your group and welcome any visitors. Thank you.
Okay, on announcements. So we've got a lot going on here. I want to mention a few things. One thing that we forgot to put up here on the calendar is that we have a caring circle that meets, that's going to meet this Tuesday at noon. You can see the website for more information on how to connect to that, but it's on, as I said, on Tuesdays at noon. If you'd like to come and just, you need some warm fuzzies, it's a good place to come to. So the other thing is, let's see, so we've got a couple of things coming up here. One of which is we've got a forum that's going to be happening on Sunday, after church on Sunday, November 1st, on exploring the human right to water. And just so you know, there are going to be a lot of, this is being organized by Randy Kokel and Lisa Denk. And they're bringing in some outside speakers, and they are going to be talking about possibly some local issues that have some controversy. So I invite you to bring your free and responsible search for truth, which is our 4th principles, and along with your questions, and ask good questions to come to that. On the election night, we're going to have an election night gathering. One of the things, we just didn't want people being kind of alone on election night. So Beth and I are going to be holding that night from like, I'm entirely decided yet, maybe from 7 until 10 o'clock or something. You can come in, come out, you can mute us. You don't have to have your video on. We're just going to be there, maybe singing some songs occasionally, watching the news, seeing how it goes. We can all just sort of breathe together throughout this. So if you would like to join us that evening, you are more than welcome to see the blast for more information. And in the coming weeks, we'll be putting out more information about that. And then, of course, we've got our fall auction coming up. And after we do our big hello, Tom is going to give just a 5-minute presentation on the auction. This is our fall auction that we're doing online this year, which is very exciting. Online kind of brings wonderful new ways for us to bring. And by the way, I missed a joy by Bob Bryant, who he said it's a joy to see old friends and all of OCUC from here in New Mexico. He said life is good even though it's 2020. So good to see you, Bob. Glad you're here and seeing your old friends, that you can join us here. That's the thing. Like, we have this incredible technology. It's not perfect, but it's allowing us to be together. And how amazing is that? And we see our friends from all over the country here, which is just absolutely fabulous. So we're going to be doing our auction that way. And everybody, doesn't matter where you are, you can actually join in the auction as well. So let's sing our benediction.
Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me. Be safe, be well, you mean the world to me.
All right, I hope you all remember just how incredibly precious this earth is and the great miracle that each and every single one of you are. This service is over. Let our service continue.